Ryan Castellanos wiped the sweat from his palms as the transport shuttle docked at Outpost Meridian 7. 3 months of negotiations on Proxima b, and all he wanted was to get home to Earth. The cargo hold behind him contained enough rare earth catalysts to make his commission for the year. But first he had to clear customs at the galaxy's most notoriously thorough checkpoint. The waiting area buzzed with dozens of species. Thaxians with their crystalline exoskeletons, gel-form Aquarians in environmental suits, even a pair of Voltari diplomats arguing in chirps and clicks. Ryan queued behind a massive Kron merchant whose 6 arms juggled various documentation tablets. "Next," called a voice that made Ryan's spine straighten involuntarily. The customs officer sat behind a scanning array, her slate-gray skin bearing the distinctive bioluminescent patterns of a Valorian, one of the few species that could shapeshift for extended periods. She was slender, professional, her dark uniform pristine. When she looked up, her eyes, violet with silver flecks, locked onto his face with an intensity that made him freeze. "Identification and cargo manifest," she said, her voice measured. Ryan slid his data pad across the scanner. She placed her palm on it, and holographic displays erupted between them, streaming his biometrics, trade licenses, and travel history. Her fingers moved through the projections with practiced efficiency, but Ryan noticed something. She kept glancing at his face. "Problem, officer?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she pulled up his personal file, and Ryan saw his own face reflected in her screens. Younger, from his ID photos going back years. His high school graduation picture flashed by. The officer's hand stopped mid-gesture. Her bioluminescent patterns flickered, a sign of emotional response among her species. "Brookdale High School," she said softly. "Class of 2242. You really don't remember me?" Ryan's mind raced. A Valorian at his Earth high school? Impossible. The exchange programs were all human colonies. Nothing interspecies, nothing. Then it hit him like a fusion reactor going critical. "Wait, Ava?" The quiet girl who sat behind him in advanced astrophysics. The one who always knew the answers but rarely spoke. The girl who'd helped him pass his finals, who'd laughed at his terrible jokes in the library, who'd vanished without explanation 3 weeks before graduation. "Ava Morvan. You weren't human," Ryan breathed. "Cultural Integration Initiative," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Around them, the customs hall continued its chaotic rhythm. But in their booth, time seemed suspended. "I was 16. They sent 40 of us to different schools across Earth. We were supposed to observe, report, integrate, learn what it meant to be human before first contact protocols." Ryan stared at her, memories flooding back. Late-night study sessions. The way she touched his hand once, lingering just a moment too long. How she'd looked at him during prom week with something like longing before she'd stopped coming to school entirely. "You just disappeared. My mission ended early." Her luminescent patterns pulsed slowly. Sadness, he somehow knew. "I've thought about you, Ryan. More than I should have." Ava's fingers danced across the holographic display, and Ryan watched as his cargo manifest rotated in the air between them. His stomach tightened when she paused at Container 7B. "Proximan catalysts," she said, her tone shifting to something more official. "You're carrying 3 times the declared limit." Ryan's mouth went dry. "I have the permits." "Forged," she interrupted, her violet eyes meeting his. "Not badly, but I've been doing this for 5 years. I know what authentic Proximan export certificates look like." She leaned forward, her voice dropping. "Do you have any idea what the penalty is for catalyst smuggling? They'd impound your ship, revoke your trading license, and send you to a labor colony for 15 years minimum." The background noise of the customs hall seemed to fade. Ryan could hear his own heartbeat, feel the cold reality of his situation settling into his bones. He trusted the wrong middleman on Proxima b, Someone who'd promised the paperwork was good as gold. Ava, do you remember what you told me? She asked suddenly, her professional mask cracking. In the library, when I was crying because I didn't understand why humans were so cruel to each other? Ryan did remember. It was October, junior year. Ava had witnessed a group of students bullying a freshman, and she'd been genuinely distressed. More than seemed normal. He'd found her in the stacks between the philosophy and astronomy sections. I told you that humans aren't all cruel, Ryan said slowly. That for every person who causes pain, there's someone who tries to heal it. You said I was one of the healers. Ava's patterns pulsed with a soft blue light. You were the only one who talked to me like I mattered. Not because I was pretty or useful, but because you saw me as real. Her hands moved across the display again, and Ryan watched in stunned silence as she began reclassifying his cargo, breaking it into smaller lots, backdating permits, creating a digital paper trail that would stand up to any audit. What are you doing? He whispered. Fixing a clerical error, she said, not meeting his eyes. Sometimes the scanners misread quantities. Happens all the time with Proximan containers. The shielding interferes with sensors. Ava, you could lose your position. Do you have somewhere to stay on the station? She interrupted, her fingers still flying across the controls. Your ship's quantum drive needs a standard safety inspection before you can depart. Takes 48 hours minimum. Protocol. Ryan's heart hammered. I was going to book a pod at the Transit Hotel. For the first time since he'd approached her booth, Ava smiled, a small, uncertain expression that took him back to high school, to the girl who'd been learning what it meant to be human. Forget the hotel, she said quietly. My shift ends in 3 hours. I have a private quarters in the residential sector. Her luminescent patterns flickered with colors he couldn't quite interpret. We have a lot of catching up to do, Ryan, and I want to show you who I really am. Ava's quarters were nothing like Ryan expected. Instead of the sterile, utilitarian spaces typical of station housing, her rooms were warm, filled with Earth memorabilia that made his chest ache with unexpected nostalgia. A Brookdale high pennant hung on one wall. Photographs from their astronomy class lined a shelf, and he spotted himself in several, caught mid-laugh or deep in concentration. You kept all this? He asked, touching the spine of their shared astrophysics textbook. It was the realest time of my life, Ava said from behind him. She'd changed out of her uniform into something simpler. A dress that shifted colors with her bioluminescent patterns, currently a deep purple. Even though I was pretending to be human, I'd never felt more myself. She moved to a cabinet and poured 2 glasses of something amber. Terran whiskey. I developed a taste for it. Ryan took the glass, their fingers brushing. The contact sent electricity through his arm. Why didn't you say goodbye? Because I couldn't. Ava sat on the low couch, and after a moment, Ryan joined her. The initiative was classified. When they pulled us out early, when the council decided humanity wasn't ready for contact yet, we were ordered to disappear completely. No traces, no loose ends. She looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting lamplight. But I left you something. Did you ever find it? Ryan's mind raced back. The week after she'd vanished, he'd found his textbook in his locker with a note pressed between the pages of the chapter on wormhole theory. Thank you for seeing me. Hey, I found it, he said softly. I never understood what you meant. I meant thank you for treating me like a person, not a project or an alien experiment. Her patterns pulsed, faster now. That spring, when we stayed late after the physics lab? Do you remember? He remembered. They'd been alone in the classroom, stars visible through the dome windows. He'd made a joke about quantum entanglement being like relationships, and she'd laughed, really laughed, and then she'd looked at him with such intensity that he'd almost kissed her. I wanted to kiss you that night, Ryan admitted, but you pulled away. Because I was terrified, Ava whispered. I was already falling for you, and I knew I'd have to leave. I knew that anything between us was impossible. She set down her glass and shifted closer, her hand finding his. Her skin was warm, surprisingly soft, and where they touched, her bioluminescent patterns began to glow brighter, spreading up her arm like liquid light. "But we're not in high school anymore," she said, her voice barely audible. "I'm not undercover. You know what I am. And Ryan," her eyes searched his face, "I never stopped thinking about what might have happened in that classroom if I'd been brave enough to stay." Ryan's heart hammered as he set down his own glass. "What are you saying, Ava?" "I'm saying I want to stop wondering." She leaned closer, her breath warm against his lips. "I'm saying kiss me, Ryan. Kiss me the way you wanted to 10 years ago." The kiss started tentatively, a decade of wondering compressed into a single moment of connection. But then Ava's hands found his face, her fingers trembling against his jaw, and something inside Ryan snapped. He pulled her closer, and she came willingly, eagerly, her body pressing against his as the kiss deepened. Her bioluminescent patterns blazed brighter, cascading across her skin in waves of purple and gold. Ryan pulled back just enough to watch the light show, mesmerized. "It happens when we feel intense emotions," Ava whispered, slightly breathless. "I can control it usually, but with you." Another wave of light rippled across her collarbone, down her arms. "I can't seem to stop it." "It's beautiful," Ryan said honestly, tracing one of the glowing lines with his finger. Her skin was incredibly soft, warm under his touch. "You're beautiful." Ava's eyes met his, vulnerable in a way he'd never seen. "In this form, I'm considered plain among my people. We value symmetry in our patterns, and mine are perfect," Ryan interrupted firmly. He kissed her again, this time with more confidence, more certainty. His hands slid to her waist, feeling the way her body curved against his. "I don't care what your people think. I think you're perfect." She made a sound, half laugh, half sob. And then she was tugging at his shirt, pulling it over his head with an urgency that sent heat flooding through him. Her hands explored his chest, tentative but curious, and her patterns pulsed faster. "I've imagined this," she confessed, her lips trailing down his neck in a way that made him groan. "Years of imagining what it would be like to touch you. To be touched by you." Ryan's hands found the fastening of her dress, and she helped him, the fabric falling away to reveal more of that luminescent skin. She was different from human women, slimmer, with subtle ridges along her ribs that seemed designed for his hands to follow. But she was also familiar in ways that mattered, her responses achingly recognizable. When he kissed the hollow of her throat, she gasped. When his hands explored lower, she arched against him with a whimper that sounded universal in its need. They moved to her bed, a tangle of limbs and breathless laughter and discoveries. Ryan learned that the ridges along her sides were incredibly sensitive, that her patterns brightened and pulsed in rhythm with her pleasure, creating a light show that painted the walls of her quarters in dancing colors. "Ryan," she breathed as he settled between her thighs, his body aligned with hers in a way that felt inevitable, like gravity or time. "I've waited so long." "So have I," he said, kissing her deeply as they finally, completely came together. The sensation was overwhelming. Not just physically, but emotionally. Each movement sent her patterns into brilliant cascades of light. Each gasp and moan erased another year of separation until there was only now. Only them. Only this perfect connection they'd been denied for too long. Dawn came slowly to Outpost Meridian 7, the station's artificial lighting cycling through sunrise simulation. Ryan woke to find himself wrapped around Ava, her patterns now a soft, contented gold that pulsed gently with her breathing. She stirred, turning in his arms to face him. "Hi," she whispered, and there was a shyness in her smile that made his heart ache. "Hi yourself." He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips, soft, lingering. "No regrets." Only that we wasted 10 years, Ava said, her hand tracing patterns on his chest. Ryan, I need to tell you something. His stomach tightened. That sounds ominous. The Cultural Integration Initiative is restarting, she said carefully. The Council has decided humanity is ready for formal first contact. They're sending delegations to Earth next month. She paused, her eyes searching his. They want former initiative members to serve as cultural liaisons. They asked me to go back. Ryan processed this, his mind racing through implications. Back to Earth? For at least 2 years, maybe longer. I'd be based in New Geneva, helping facilitate the transition, teaching other Valorians about human customs, helping humans understand us. Her patterns flickered with uncertainty. I told them I'd think about it. Why hesitate? Ryan asked, though part of him already knew. Because of you, Ava said simply. I just found you again. The idea of being on Earth while you're out here trading, seeing each other maybe once or twice a year. She shook her head. I don't know if I can do that. Ryan was quiet for a long moment, his hand stroking her hair, feeling the subtle texture that wasn't quite human but was unmistakably Ava. He thought about his trading routes, his ship, the life he'd built in the years since high school. He thought about how easily he could lose it all, how close he'd come to losing it yesterday. What if I came with you? He heard himself say. Ava pulled back to look at him. What? Earth needs traders who understand alien markets, right? Who better than someone who's spent years building relationships on colony worlds? The idea solidified as he spoke, feeling more right with each word. I could base myself out of New Geneva, consult for the Commerce Department, help facilitate trade agreements. We could, he smiled, tucking a strand of her hair behind her ear. We could try this. Really try. Together. Her patterns blazed brilliant white. Joy, he realized. Pure joy. You'd give up your routes? Your ship? I'd give up anything to not lose you again, Ryan said honestly. Besides, my ship needs a co-pilot. And I seem to remember you got straight as in navigation. Ava laughed, the sound bright and free, and kissed him deeply. I love you, she whispered against his lips. I think I've loved you since you handed me that physics textbook and said we'd figure out the universe together. Then let's keep that promise, Ryan said, pulling her close as station dawn light filled the room. Let's figure out everything together.